Well, good morning. I'm sitting out here this morning on Thursday, and we've all been inside our homes for a little bit, maybe running around getting those last minute items. And I've been wanting to send out a video just to let you know what I've been thinking and maybe what's been going through my head. And what came to mind for me this morning was out of Matthew 4, and I'm going to read that for you in just a minute, but I wanted you to think about what the disciples went through in order to follow Jesus. Sometimes we don't actually think about what it would have cost them or the courage it would have taken for them to be a disciple. For after all, Jesus didn't just go on the regular beaten path, and he didn't go to the safe places, and he wasn't just looking for their security and comfort. He was taking them somewhere to teach them something, which was to follow him. And so I was thinking about that courage for each of us. You know, Jesus had assignments for the disciples that weren't necessarily comfortable. They weren't things that people would sign up for. And as we come into Mark 4, what we realize is the disciples had been with Jesus. He'd been teaching on parables, actually. And then he tells them there in Mark 4 to go ahead and get into a boat. And I'm just going to read those verses for you. It's Mark 4:35 and 36. It says, "On the same day, when evening had come, he said to them, 'Let us cross over to the other side.' Now when they had left the multitude, they took him along in the boat, and as he was, and the other little boats were also with him." So not just the disciples, but other people wanting to follow Jesus too. And they're crossing over. Now, that sounds simple enough. But what we realized is that crossing over was going to be the time that they would enter into a storm on the sea. And the Jews already had an understanding of the sea as having some great power, and they were afraid of it. A lot of fishermen would die in that sea, but they would also make their living out of the sea. And here they are, and they're going over in the boat, and this amazing storm whips up. And you can imagine how they would have responded to that storm. I mean, the Bible tells us, we can continue to reading on, and we find out that they kind of freaked out as Jesus slept. But the point of that story is that when he told them to get into the boat, they had no idea where they were going. They had no idea what was actually going to happen. They could imagine, they could say, well, gosh, we could encounter storms. Those have been known on the sea before. Or it could be smooth sailing and a beautiful sunset and a beautiful sunrise. But the storm did come up. And Jesus knew that. They didn't know that, but he did. And he already had a plan for the storm. And when they would come to the other side, when they would finally land on the shore there, what would they encounter? A buffet dinner? No. A demon-possessed man running out of the tombs naked, cutting himself, bound with chains that he had broken due to the demonic strength within him. And they got to watch Jesus work a miracle in this man's life and to encourage the others through it. Neither one of these would have been things they signed up for. And following Jesus is sometimes like that. It's an adventure. But can you imagine, after having gone through it, them saying, man, I wish we never had gone through that. I wish we didn't have to experience any of that. Because the truth of the matter is, in those adventures, something powerful was happening in them. And where they were going with Jesus, something was happening that was very powerful to all those who didn't have Jesus. Life-changing stuff. Eternity-changing stuff. And I just want to encourage us, because we're on a journey now at this particular point where maybe we're all saying, I don't know that I want to go. I don't know that I want to do this, but we are doing this. We're in it. And I think we need to remember what the disciples learned is that Jesus was already in the details. He already had a plan. He already had it all figured out. And they were simply going to see him do some amazing things. And in the process, they were going to grow in their trust for him, and they were going to bring glory to God. We have the same opportunity, folks, right before us. This is different territory. I promise it's different for the vast majority of us, unless you've lived in a country that's had some outbreaks of some type or another. But even with that, those have passed. They have moved through, but the gospel remains forever. I hope you're on the journey. I hope you're looking to see what Jesus is going to do. And I'd love to hear the stories of how he's already working in your neighbors, in your family, wherever your feet are planted. Look forward to it. Stay safe. Enjoy your time with Him, and be prepared for the journey.